Our final speaker today is, and I love your name, Kip Loving. Isn't that a great name? I think it's great. I asked Kip what he was going to do today, and Kip said that he is, that he's really into technology, and that, let me just ask you a question. How many people in this room either have or use computers on a regular basis? Well, what's happening, obviously, I mean, you all know this, is that now the criminal element in our society have figured out how to steal, how to take from you by using technology. And that it's really important. It is almost like you are opening the door. When you open your computer, it's like opening the door and just not locking it, letting people walk in and take whatever they want to. And so Kip is here because his experience is in helping people understand what they can do to protect themselves from that kind of thievery, from that kind of criminal element. And so we're really fortunate to have him here. Kip is with the Stanislaus County District Attorney's Office. He gave the same talk to a similar group in Stanislaus County a while back. He does a great job. He's got a lot of experience. He's got the toughest time of the day, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but the chairs are still full. I see open eyes and open ears and open hearts. So Kip, I give you the podium, and let's give him a big welcome.
Thank you. My name's Kip Loving. I'm a DA investigator for the Stanislaus County District Attorney's Office. 24 years in law enforcement-ish, somewhere in there, 25 now. About the last 6 years I've been working for the Sacramento Valley High-Tech Crime Task Force out of Sacramento, dealing with crimes involving high-tech, cellular phones, and ID theft. I'm going to walk you through a series of cases, and I'm hoping that you'll start looking at yourself a little bit today and maybe start making some changes. I would hope that video, okay, because let me show you what they were doing. Boyette Petroleum, based, actually I don't know where they're based. I know they have quite a few facilities in Modesto. They would take that video, take it home, and notice what they would start playing with at all? Playing cards. Okay, see the cards? And they would simply, the Boyette gas cards, they would freeze frame as the person's putting it in, duplicate the whole punch system, and make their own cards. Okay? And what else do you need if you have the card? Did they have the PIN number? Over 300 victims. Hey buddy, come on down, free gas, or give me $50 and you can fill up however many cars you want, type thing. Mostly trading it for dope. These are what cranksters do. And I'll work on the definitions later, because sometimes I do these presentations and people say, what's a crankster? Okay. And I also throw words like in dirt bags, and they, what's a dirt bag? I'll show you. Okay. Now I do have a hard time. I like to move around a lot, so I'm going to have a hard time standing here. Where's the other mic? Okay. I know you can't use it, I've been told, but I'm going to use it anyway. I have a gun, okay? All right. First thing we're going to do is test things, make sure, but we're going to work on definitions, right? So I'm going to show you idiots, dirtbags, cranksters. Okay, do I have the blood flowing? Okay. I'm serious. I've been asked what cranksters are, and so I've got, oh, what can I start doing? Now, these are the people we deal with in law enforcement. You have to remember, we only catch the stupid ones, okay? Here's another definition for you, okay? If you ever see these people come to you wanting to re-roof your home, wanting to clean your house, wanting to borrow the phone, say no, okay? These people are not good people. Okay, these are what cranksters look like. These people were doing mail theft, and yes, I get to put their pictures up there because we've arrested them. Okay, so just start thinking about saying no to people. You've heard a lot of good information today, and the weakest link in the chain is you. Absolutely you. Okay, and hopefully we'll give you some tools to start maybe changing a few things that you do. Okay. First thing, we're going to get the boring stuff out of the way. That's statistics. And I'll just show you a few things that this slide, actually, you probably can't see it, but it's actually a 2002 slide. So why am I going to waste your time with a 2002 slide? I really like this one because we're here to talk about ID theft, but look where it is, way down towards the bottom. And that's for a couple of reasons. If you really look at it, everything on there can be some form of ID theft. And we in law enforcement don't do the best job of keeping it in a certain category and making sure it gets listed as an ID theft. So my point to you is, as you look at all of those things, and a lot of them you've talked about today, recognize that you're allowing people to have your personal information and they're going to use it. One thing that I normally also start out with, and I'll just touch on it, is I regularly commit ID theft. I regularly go out and steal your mail. I was in a hotel in Carlsbad recently, and I walked down the hallway and grabbed the envelopes with the billing, found the one, this happened to be a Hilton, found the one with the Hilton Honors Gold member. Do you think I like that guy? Went back to my room, took a picture of it, and put it back in front of his room. It's that easy. It's that easy. So if people can go, if your information is laying out in front of your hotel from your night stay, because they're being convenient, they're going to put it there for you, they should be tucking it under your door, right? But in this case, they didn't. They do now. We had a talk with the manager. Okay. And they were in Hilton. I like to point out the businesses that work with us well, and Hilton was very responsive. But my point is that's how easy it is. Okay? Some more statistics, and you may have covered some of this earlier today, but 10 million Americans victimized by ID theft. 10 million. How many people in this room right now have been touched by ID theft, whether yourself or someone close to you? Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And victims, I've talked to a number of them, will tell you, it's like, hey, you know, a lot of times I'll get the money back. You know, in fact, the bank's worked with me. I have all my money back. But it's the constant problems, the phone calls, that every time I go out and try to, you know, do something, I have to explain this. One victim put it to me best, said, hey, I wish somebody would have just hit me over the head with a brick. At least it would heal and I can go on, compared to having to put up with this. And she, in her case, was dealing with a case that I had finished 2 years prior, and she was still dealing with headaches over it. So it's a very devastating, and a word that we in law enforcement don't hear very often, only for a few types of crimes, is violated. That term gets used with us regularly. So recognize the fact that you need to keep your information safe, and recognize the fact that it is a very devastating to have to go through. Losses in the 50 billion, average loss per business about $5,000, okay? And that gets passed on to us. Average loss per victim, about $500. Again, a lot of times victims will get the money back. It's the headaches they have to deal with while doing that. Now we know what a dirtbag is, right? I don't need to stop and explain anymore. Average gain per dirtbag, over $10,000. One video that I'm going to show you a little bit later, when we arrested him, he had actually had a total of about 23 Sony Vaio laptops. And he was trading them for dope, trading them for crank, okay? And his victims, he had over 280 to 300 victims. Very, very easy. Credit card losses, 820 million. Who pays for that? Absolutely. We are pleased to inform you. Now, I really hope at this stage we do not have to spend a lot of time on this subject. A lot of computers in here, but this is where you get and the point of the slide is not for you to try to read this. It's too small. Okay, that's 101 PowerPoint. Don't do that. My point is how you will get these in your email. I'm King so-and-so from Providence such and such, and I need to hide $12 billion. Will you help me by providing your account number? Does anybody ever fall for that? Does anybody ever fall for it? Here's a police report. Let me read. I won't mention the guy's name. Larry told the officer that he owns I won't mention what kind of business. I'll give him that benefit. And received emails from individuals from Africa requesting his services for a $34 million estate that needed to be turned over to its heir, which is their client. Larry was told that he would receive 10% of the estate for his services. Larry spoke by phone to the individual claiming to be Bogey, blah, 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 blah. I'm really not trying to hide it. I can't pronounce it. That should be a clue, okay? He was told that the check, blah, 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 and let's skip forward here. Larry said he contacted CalFed Bank. I won't mention the bank's name. And made the manager aware of the check that would be arriving. And he later confirmed with the bank that a check was deposited into his account for a total of $42,000. That was the first installment. The check number was typical cops. We document everything, wind speed, everything is here. Okay? Let's go forward here a little bit more. The company name on the bank was due showing an address in New York. The check was made payable to the victim. CalFed Bank said the check hasn't cleared as of yet, but he would be notified. The bank told him on the dates listed. The victim was then contacted by the bank, on looking at the date here the next day, and told that the check had cleared. The victim then commits to sending a total of $30,000 in Western Union to Africa. And I think you'll know the rest of the story, but in case you don't, these scams are all the same. Was the check ever good? No, right. Where is the $5,000, or in this case $30,000 before it was stopped? Where is that money going to come from? Out of Larry's pocket, right? The bank's not going to cover you on this one. Okay? Let me tell you a little secret about law enforcement. Where do you think that report goes? Do we investigate that? Goes in our stupid file. Okay? We have one. Okay? You can't do that. You absolutely cannot do that. I don't quite understand how if I walked up to you right now and asked you for money, large sums of money, you would tell me I would hope to pound sand. But for whatever reason, in the comfort of your home, you will communicate with these idiots. And I don't know if you could see, especially in the back, how thick this report is, but he had all his emails, the communications, and we just don't have time to go through them, but they're quite The spelling's bad, nothing makes sense. The victim said, hey, could you send me some identification? So they faxed him a copy of some identification. You think it's real? Okay? Just think about that. Like I said, we're not going to spend a lot of time on these types of scams, but the computer users in here, hit delete. Don't even respond back to them. Just delete them. Okay?
If I heard a question back here that said, the bank said the check cleared. Tell us about that.
The bank said the check cleared. We have some bankers here that can explain this better than I. But there's a gap, correct? And what the suspects will usually do is they may actually send you a check with some money in it, that amount, but that money will be removed fairly quick. Or they're hoping just for the transaction time. Or in one case, they were using a McDonald's payroll account number. So when the bank checked to see if that amount was in there, it showed that there was. Okay? So, and that's a whole other subject, but gives you an idea. These guys have this thing figured out. Now, what's the worst case scenario for these guys, these idiots? You delete it, and you don't get a response, and they move on to the next victim. They're able to send millions of these emails to you. And some of you in here are going, well, how do they send a million emails? They got a million people sitting at computers? No. There's programs out there that are free that are called email generators. And they do things like, all you put in, if I was the hacker, all I would put in is AOL.com. And the computer will start generating emails, john@AOL.com, john1@AOL.com, and it will just do millions automatically for you. Okay, so that's why when you say, man, why am I getting this email? How do they know if there's something on the other end? They don't know until you get a response back. So we'll kind of talk about that later. Hold on just a second. We'll talk about that later. Okay, we're gonna hit on different types of scams. Okay. And what I want you to do, we just hit on some things related to the internet. Okay, let's move on. One of the biggest issues for this crowd is family members. And what we're seeing in law enforcement is a lot more family versus family. We all have idiots in our family that we do not hang out with, okay, at the family reunion. Or we keep our kids away from, right? Stay away from Uncle Johnny, he just got out of prison, okay? All right, I mean, in some of yours, and we're all laughing about it, but that's the fact. And these people, what do they know about you? Absolutely everything. They know when you were born, where you were born, all that kind of stuff. And we're seeing a trend in law enforcement. In fact, in the Valley, we have what we call Modesto Irrigation District and Turlock Irrigation District. And I regularly get calls, especially from Turlock Irrigation District, talking about 18, 19, 20-year-olds going in to get power for their first apartment and finding out that they owe $800 or $900 from 12 years prior on an account. So they weren't, 10 years old, but their parents were using their Social Security number. Okay? Very easy to do. As with my friend Aaron Lenz. Aaron, crankster, dope, I don't need to explain what a crankster is, right? Cranksters, dopester, used her ex-husband's information till that ran out. While she was using his information, she got cable service, an apartment, and credit cards, and phone service. That ran out after a while, and she's such a great mom that we in law enforcement had taken away her 5-year-old son's information, or her 5-year-old son. But she knew his Social Security number, and she used it. Okay? That simple. We're not going to spend a lot of time on these. I want to burn through them just to give you an idea. My mother-in-law of the year, same kind of concept. She's dirtbag, works in a doctor's office of all places. Starts using her mother-in-law's personal information to over $32,000, maxing out credit cards. Now, her husband, or the victim's son, claimed not to know anything about it, but during the interview I asked to see his wallet, and it had 2 of the credit cards in it. So made it nice. That's what we call really good evidence, so it worked out good. Neighbor of the Year, Edward Peacock. Edward's a crankster, dopester. You've been supporting him most of his life. He goes through your trash cans to collect aluminum cans. He also figured out that you like to throw away your applications for credit cards that we all get every day. And he started submitting them. And as the credit cards started coming on the street, he would meet the postman, feel the credit card, and put it in his pocket. The nice thing for the investigation side is he was buying mostly alcoholic beverages at the same location, and they had really good video, so that worked out good. Internet hacking. How many people, and it was already asked, but we had a lot of computer users in here, right? So we won't ask that anymore, but I would appreciate an honest answer. How many people have virus protection, firewalls, and spyware on your computer that is updated? Okay. So what if I told you that I'm going to kick your door, pull you out of the shower at gunpoint, and the only thing that you did wrong was not have virus protection and a firewall on your computer? Is that a legal search? Question is that a legal search? I beg to differ.
7 months ago, this quiet Turlock home was surrounded by detectives who had a search warrant.
Pound, pound, pound on the door. Please step out of the shower. And I peered out the door with the towel wrapped around me, and here are several officers in full regalia. And I'm like, how are these people here, and why are they upstairs in my bedroom?
As detectives made their way through Wilton Fryer's house,
I was not allowed in either room.
he learned they were after his computer. The Culver City website had been hacked. The trail led straight to the Fryer's house where Wilton's son played online games, but detectives were puzzled.
Part of the profile wasn't there, because all he had was games and high-speed things like that for games, but not manuals on software and writing, that sort of thing. Okay, it's loading, let's see.
After a bit more high-tech investigation, detectives tracked down the real hacker, 19-year-old Marcus Robicos. He was in Tracy, 40 miles away, hacking any website he could get into.
It's not going to adrenaline rush, I would say. It's an accomplishment, that's what it would be.
And it turns out Marcus was using the Fryer's computer to get that rush.
How would he do it? Think of this road as cyberspace. Marcus would cruise the cyber streets until he found an open door. Then he would invite himself in and set up what's called a Trojan horse.
It's a program that allows you to have full control of the other person's computer.
And while Marcus only used the computer as a middleman, some hackers take control of your computer to steal your personal information. The experts who work high-tech crime say this should be a wake-up call to all computer users.
Please get virus protection software.
And consider getting special software called a firewall.
It's like that 6'5" linebacker, putting his arms up saying, stay away, unless he knows who you are and they let those people in.
Wilton Fryer's computer now has both forms of security, so he'll never be a victim again.
There's no question at all, just do it.
Culver City PD's website was hacked into, $30,000 worth of damage was done. The trail led straight to Wilton Fryer's house. That's a worst case scenario, but that's something close to home. The only thing Wilton had not done was keep his virus protection and his firewall up. He had that open door. And I would hope you, especially as you have multiple computers in your homes and you've given a computer to a family member, recognize that you need to keep that information updated and the virus protection, that sort of thing, updated. Also recognize that you can keep a computer totally safe. Firewall, virus protection, pop-up blockers for absolutely nothing. Okay, we're not going to sit here and say one's better than the other, McAfee versus Norton, but the fact of it is places like Computer Associates has free virus protection for 1 year free updates. Microsoft, of all companies, has free spyware. It's called Microsoft Defender, if I believe it right. Absolutely free download. So recognize that you can protect your computer for nothing. Okay, keep that in mind. That's a worst case scenario. And I guess my only question is, how can we always pull guys out of the shower at gunpoint? It's kind of cool. At Wilton, I was doing a Kiwanis presentation, and Wilton was in the audience, so it worked out. He got fined quite heavily that day, so it worked out good. All right, blood rolling today? We got blood going? Okay. Here's what we would like to do if it was really up to us on how to deal with some of these guys. And I guarantee you, you would never be a victim more than once.
The hostage taker here escorting two of his captives out of the bank where he had held them for 12 hours had a plan, but so did the police. The plan to exchange the hostages for a motorcycle on which to make his getaway. The man claimed to have a hand grenade, had demanded money and drugs. Then, as he sped down a boulevard, live on Spanish TV, an unmarked police car pulled into the biker's path. Hollywood couldn't have written what happened next better. The slow-mo replay shows the man making almost 2 complete revolutions and a very rough landing. After recent terrorist attacks, Spanish police are in no mood for leniency. This man picked the wrong time and the wrong way to try to support his protest. Mark Phillips, CBS News, London.
Don't you just wish sometimes? That whole, prison cost thing, but we won't go there. Skimming devices. We've run into 2 of these recently. I won't mention the restaurant, Denny's, Modesto, where an employee is wearing one of these. And some of you are sitting there going, what's a skimming device? It's a card reader. It's a card capture device. That little device that you can wear around your neck will hold over 3,000 card numbers. So while you place your card out on the table and walk away, as it walks away to go through the normal course of business system for 5 minutes before it's brought back or so, you just swipe it through there and it captures all the information. Very, very simple. Internal privileged access. Denise Spears, I call her my employee of the year, worked at a doctor's office. Modesto, won't mention the name, US HealthWorks, okay? Who simply thought it was kind of cool when another black female came through the door about her height, about her weight, with good credit. And she made copies of all her personal information, and within 1 week of that doctor's office visit, Denise had credit cards, had an apartment, had phone service and cable service. It's that simple. Just by making copies of something that you present at the doctor's office. Now, you would think, wow, at a doctor's office, she should feel safe. Started doing a little background on Denise. She was on felony probation for welfare fraud when she was hired there. She was using narcotics when she was hired there. Now, if you know anything about US HealthWorks, they're a drug testing facility. Don't get me started, okay? What did I say earlier? We're our worst enemies, right? We're the weakest link, okay? Sometimes these people walk in and they've got idiot written all over them, and we'll still sit them down with all your personal information in front of them. And that's exactly what happened here. How did she get a job if she can't pass a drug test? She was hired as a temp, okay? And temps, they don't check. Just gives you a quick idea. Driver's license manufacturing. I had arrested this guy in 2000, Marvin Hammonds. And Marvin at that time was doing some low-key stuff. He was making IDs, he was doing check fraud. He just, for whatever reason, I guess it's because it was a great case, but he ends up going to state prison. And he goes bye-bye for a while. And during that time in 2000, I seized 5 computers from him, but the judge made me give him 1 computer back, because at that time we didn't find any evidence on it. And it was one of his kids' computers, and we didn't find any evidence on it. No, we don't just put evidence on things, okay? Now, Kathy, you know this guy? We won't ask, okay? Now remember I said I had to give a computer back, okay? Remember that. Marvin gets out of jail, out of prison, state prison, and he's out for about 2 weeks. Within that time, he and his friends decide they're going to go out and do mail theft. This is mail from one night's haul from San Joaquin County, Stanislaus, and Merced County. Just to give you an idea how much mail is there, we stopped at 100 victims. That's all we really needed. We knew we were going to take this case federal, and I stopped at 100 victims, and there was well over that. Remember I said I had to give him a computer back? Well, he had gotten the computer back after he got out of jail, and it still had our evidence sticker on it from the original case when I seized it for the second time. I asked Marvin, I go, dude, why didn't you take our evidence sticker off? He goes, man, you guys put those on there good, you know, but they're not the bright. Like I said, we only catch the stupid ones. Marvin was, I prosecuted him in federal court in Fresno, and he received 3 years, which I was actually kind of disappointed. I was hoping for a little bit more than that since he had already done state prison time, but oh well. He cooperated, and that was the deal they gave him. Social engineering. This case here is one of my favorites. Started out with my captain showing up in my office saying, hey, you got a minute? What do you say? And the second thing he says is, I think I'm the victim of ID theft. You got time to look at the case. No pressure there. Okay. So within about a week, I pretty much figured out, I didn't know who was doing it, but I figured out whoever was doing my captain was also victimizing about 30 to 40 other people. I had, well, I guess a better way of putting it is I had about a total of 40 plus victims. Then I hooked up with a detective in Modesto. I'd like to give credit to Darren Ruskamp. And Darren was already well ahead of me working the same guy and had over 200 victims. And he had some great scams, and one of his favorites was going through mortgage companies and banks. Hi, ladies. I'm going to need an escort out of here later. Okay, somebody needs to help me out because I've already been marked. You think them? No, anyway. But this individual, let me give him credit right off the bat. In fact, let me skip forward a little bit. In your packets, I believe there's an ID theft pamphlet that I put together. And people give me a lot of credit for it. I would like to tell you that the person who helped me write that is the guy that you're going to see on this video that we arrested. Okay? Now, back to the story. He would have some great scams. He would go to banks, they're trash. He would go to mortgage companies. I won't mention the one in Modesto that he really liked, Stuart Title. And he would pull out full credit reports out of their trash, to the point where we had over 200, easily 200 victims. And he would simply go through, pick the ones he wanted. His favorite spot, he'd go down to Target, and he would go to where there's no video, the Target little kiosk in the back for the Target Visa, and he would stand there and enter the information right there and get a printout for a temporary card up to, at that time, $1,000. Now I believe it's $1,500. And he would walk out of the store with $1,000 worth of product. Just that simple, very easy. But then, remember I said he was sharp, right? He's very smart. He figured out while he's smoking dope at home, he could pick up the phone, call the customer service number on the temporary card, and the call would go something like, "Thank you for calling Target Visa. Please enter your account number." So he had that on the temporary card, he would enter it. Then it would say, "To verify your identity, please enter the last four of your social security number." Well, he knew that, he had the original victim's information. Then it would assume that he's now received his new card in the mail, and it would say, "If you've received your new card in the mail, your new Target Visa, please press 1 to activate it," and he would activate it. And it would then tell him, like in my captain's spot, how much he's good for. And in my captain's situation, he was told, "You're good for $8,000." And he would then go to certain websites. The best one that he liked was Sony.com, or SonyStyles.com is what it's called. But let me, in fact, let me tell you this video that I'm going to show you. As Ethan Hart used to be with Channel 3, he's now on a Bay Area station. He's kind of a bulldog, and he says, calls me one day, he says, hey, we're introducing your new pamphlet, because you think you can have a suspect that we could talk to, somebody that you've arrested. So I thought of this guy right off the bat. I said, yeah, I'll see if I can get him down there for the press conference. So I call his house, and he was out of jail now, and you know, typical do local time, and I think he only got like 280 days. And oh, by the way, that you only have to do half of that if you do everything you're supposed to do in jail anyway. But I'm not bitter. But I call his house, and his mom thinks I'm a jerk. She thinks I railroaded her son, blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't go well. And I finally just say, hey, he needs to call me right away, okay? So I get a phone call within a few minutes, and he's, hey, I haven't done anything wrong. I says, and I don't want to mention his name. I try to keep his name out of it, but we'll call him Kathy. We'll call him Kathy. No, we'll call him John. And I said, hey, John, we're going to do a press conference today on the pamphlet that you helped me with. You're going to be on camera, but I'm going to hide your face, and they just want to talk to you. And he goes, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. Do I have a choice? I go, no, you're on probation. You don't have a choice. It really kind of surprised me. He goes, well, I don't know if I can. I go, well, why not? He goes, well, I got a job. I'm like, oh, that's great. You know, John, that's awesome. I'm glad you got a job. Where are you working? Do I have to tell you? And I said, he goes, you know, he says that. He says, man, do I have to tell you? I go, yeah. And I finally get pissed off. And I say, you know, I really don't have time for this. And I said a few words. You want me to come over and hook you up right now, or you're going to play along with it, but you're going to do this today. And he admitted to me that he is now working in a hospital in hospital records. And I asked him, I says, hey, how did you get, you know, he ended up showing up, and I said, how did you get this job? Remember I said we're the weakest link, right? He said, well, I got out of jail, and I sent out over 60 resumes, just everywhere, anywhere. And they called me, they interviewed me over the phone, and I started the next day. Let me play the video.
Are launching an offensive against identity theft. Tonight we have two compelling examples of why this needs to be taken seriously. KCRA 3's Ethan Hart did some dumpster diving tonight and found more than just garbage. Ethan?
Very believable. Let's take a look. This is confidential information I found from a family somewhere in Modesto. If I wanted to, I could give out their social security number, home address, how much money they make in a year, personal credit card numbers, and much more. After we show you how easy it was to find this, we'll show you what can be done to stop it.
Me and a buddy of mine got together and we decided that there was a lot of money to be had in basically stealing people's identities.
The Stanislaus Sheriff's Department introduced us to this 25-year-old convicted identity thief, and he introduced us to how easy a crime it is.
We just basically go around to mortgage companies. Those seem to be the best hotspots to get people's credit information. We go online and apply for accounts in their names. I mean, sometimes we create the account and activate the account up to $15,000 within a matter of 10 minutes.
One of their favorite ways, going through garbage bins behind businesses from Sacramento to San Jose to Modesto. Tonight, we tried it. There you go. In the trash behind this Modesto mortgage company, an application with more than I needed to cash in on one family's bad fortune.
Can you tell me why I was able to find this in your garbage?
What is that? Says a camera.
It's not the only way to lose your identity and money. That's why the Sheriff's Department and the Sacramento Valley High-Tech Crimes Task Force are putting out this brochure.
We've discovered over the last 18 months to 2 years, as this crime has progressed and has become more prevalent, that people didn't know where to turn.
And back at the dumpster, we didn't even go through this whole thing, so, you know.
Well, we never get this out. This is the first time it ever happened.
People to them or someone they know.
Here's the brochure again, not only designed to help you prevent ID theft, but to help you do damage control in the event it happens to you. You can pick it up at the San Andreas County Sheriff's Department.
Yeah. It's the first time it's ever happened, right? Love my bankers. ID theft, stealing your good name. Hilda here. Dang. Back in 1938, did a photo op for Woolworth and used her real Social Security number, and it's still showing up today. How dirtbags, we know what a dirtbag is, right? Okay, gotcha. How do they contact you? How are they going to try to contact you? Start going through it. Web pages, part of it. Phone, yeah, they may call you. Physical mail, that's part of it. Kind of go through it here. What's number one? I haven't brought it up there. Who said email? Very good. Dang. Email, absolutely. Millions of emails can be sent out by just one press of the button. So realize that that's how they're going to try to reach you. Why is ID theft skyrocketing? A quote by the person in that video, Lazy Dirtbag Dream. That was his quote during the interview, okay? Commit the crime from the comfort of his home, and he also added that he'd be able to be smoking dope. Less than 10% ever face charges, okay? Very easy. When you see people get caught for things on TV, and it's like, man, God, he was doing something bad, realize that they've probably done it. I like to go back to my old ag teacher, and one thing that he would always say, Mr. Olson, because I know there's somebody in here from the high school I went to. I've already talked to her. Where's she at? Anyway. Oh, there you are. And Mr. Olson. Okay, and he would always say, you see one mouse in your house, you got 10 more you don't see. Okay? And that's how I look at this. If we catch somebody for something, how many things did they do before we caught them? And that's something you need to recognize. If convicted, thank you, California. Not a whole lot's going to happen. Thank you, California, for keeping law enforcement in business. DMV, worthless. Ooh, strong words. Maybe have DMV employees in here. Well, this quote is from a DMV investigator. Their computer system that we have spent a whole bunch of money. You know that thumbprint that you give goes nowhere. And the same person with 20 different names can come in there and walk out with an ID using their same thumbprint. They need to fix that. Banks. Did I do okay? Did I do okay? Banks are getting better. They are learning to protect your information a lot better than it used to be. I think it would be very hard-pressed to find going behind a bank nowadays. I would sure hope so, and pulling out full apps. Okay? We won't go into much more, or I'll end up digging more of a hole. So, how crooks get your info? They go through your trash can, just like Wilton Fryer. They steal your mail, just like Marvin Hammonds. These guys are out there. These guys are out there. Internet, or someone who might have stolen it. Okay? Good example there is a certain tax preparing service, I won't mention the name, H&R Block, who had an employee making copies of tax returns and trading them for an ounce of crank. Okay? Very easy to do. Just start thinking about where your information is. Banks, schools, hospitals, a lot of information there. Need to be aware of that. Get the information from computers, those without firewalls, and we've already talked about that. And friends and relatives. Friends and relatives. Recognize that the people that you have in your home, you might want to make sure you know what their intentions are. Some of you allow other people to use your computer. You might want to be a little aware of that. I like to coin the phrase that the computer hard drive is the window to your soul. That's a lot of information on there, okay? Best ways to get scammed. I put this list together. It's like if you want to get scammed, here's how you do it, okay? Do business with spammers. So all that spam you get pretty much easy thing. Click first. You know, what do you do when you get all this spam? Do you respond back to it? Do you hit unsubscribe? What do you do? What have you just done when you've hit the unsubscribe button? You've just verified that that's a good email address to them. So now you're going to get bombarded. So delete it, block it, do something like that. Share your PC, we've already kind of covered it, but recognize the fact that you know, you're allowing somebody access to a lot of good information on there. Ignore the fine print, self-explanatory. Surf unprotected, virus protection firewall. Okay, surf on the dark side. What do I mean by that? What is it? Okay. Okay. You know, right off the bat, somebody says porn, okay, or something like that. A lot of the websites that are around or based around pornography are set up to do scams, do credit card fraud. They're very good at a couple of things. They're good at keeping it under the radar and only overcharging your credit card for 10, 20 bucks, hoping you won't even see it. The second thing they're good at is recognizing the fact that you probably won't call the cops and say, hey, I was surfing young girls and whatever, and they overcharged my credit card. You're probably not going to make that phone call. And a lot of websites are problematic in that regard. Using check cards. What do I mean by that? Debit cards. Debit cards are a nasty little product. Banks are going to really get me now. The fact of it is, if you're allowing them access to your account, and where does that money come from as soon as it's compromised? Your account. And if you have overdraft protection, tied to your savings, right? So especially traveling, you might want to think about a real credit card, Visa, MasterCard, American Express. Where does that money come from? Them, it's their money until you've had an opportunity to review the bill. Oh, I made those charges, and then you write a check to Mr. American Express, Visa, or MasterCard. Usually a hot topic, we won't go into it much here. Now, what about AARP? We've already heard from them today, right? What about websites like this? Is this an AARP website? Why do you say no? Yeah. Well, let's call a number at the top. Okay, Kathy, how do you do your speakerphone so everybody can hear it? Okay, I'll let you do it.
It's dialing.
Oh, they're calling back. Now, when I answer it, go ahead and answer it, put it on speakerphone.
Answer.
Yeah.
It's this one. Oh. Say hello.
Hello? Nope, it didn't go.
Okay, let's do it again. Is it working?
Okay, hopefully you'll be able to hear this okay.
Good afternoon.
Hello?
Hello, good afternoon. What can I do for you, sir?
Well, I'm calling about an ad that I'm looking at here, and it said to call 877-894-4531 regarding AARP promotion.
Oh, yes, it's our protection program. Where it's a free service that we're offering to seniors. And what you can do is you can provide me with your name and address, phone number. We also take down your driver's license and some of your credit card information and banking information. So that in the future, if there's ever a suspect that your identity has been stolen, we can contact all the financial institutions and make sure we close up your account to make sure none of your money disappears. In addition to that, this is all free, and it's a service that's being provided by the AARP.
Really, and this is actually AARP that I'm calling right now?
Absolutely. If you look at the website, sir, are you up there right now?
I'm at the website right now.
Obviously, you must have gotten this from one of our email mailings that went out. If you'll notice, you just click around on the website. You can look at our various facilities and services that we offer on the website. And, of course, at the top is where you found our phone number for the data.
Yes, it is. Well, in fact, so what information would I have to provide, and how much is it going to cost me?
It's very easy. We make it extremely easy for folks. You're an AARP member now?
No, I'm not.
We can take care of that as well. It's a $55 activation fee for AARP membership, of course, which is a fantastic organization to be a member of if you're a retired senior. What we do is we get your name and address. We also ask you for your driver's license number, so we have that. Again, for the banking information. We need to collect your checking account and any of your credit cards. We would need the credit card number, the expiration date, which, by the way, is an added service. We notify you a month in advance when your credit cards are going to be no longer valid, so you know to get them renewed. In addition to, we need the little 3-digit code on the back.
Okay.
Of course, then we will send you a full report listing all this information for you, but we also keep it online. And then we monitor your credit, so in case in the future someone looks like they're stealing your identity, we can notify you ahead of time.
That sounds like a really good deal.
Well, it's a fantastic deal. It's a nice service. It's a good service that we do for seniors, just to make sure that they're always kept up and that their identities aren't stolen. Of course, and they are the fastest growing demographic of people's identities that are being stolen.
All right, well, thank you very much. We'll look at it and consider it and get back to you. Thank you very much.
All right, sir.
Liar. Who's here from AARP? Where are you at? Okay, did it sound pretty good? I'm seeing some faces going, yeah, and some going, no. Let me tell you something. This website is one of ours, and we use it for training. Okay? And we have what we call phishing websites. What is fishy? And it's just where a website, in this case eBay, looks like a real website. And you will get an email saying, hey, please confirm your information. Or in AARP's case, you would get the email saying, hey, click this link. You would go right to here. You would call the 800 number, and they would take the information, and it's done. It's that simple. Okay? It's that simple. You want to look for things. You want to look for errors on the page. In the case for the address, you want to make sure, and I know you can't see it, so I'll explain it, but for a U.S. bank, you would make sure that it said www.usbank.com at the top compared to over here, or actually over here, a series of numbers. Okay. Differences that somebody spotted on the AARP website. Absolutely. Hopefully you would notice that. Citizens Bank, I'm not the best speller. I actually missed this one because Citizen Bank was misspelled in the URL, or up in the address box. AOL, this one I like to end with for a couple reasons, but if you're a customer of a business and they need to confirm all this information all over again, that's a clue, okay? Stay away from it. Victim resources, the pamphlet in there has information on how not to become a victim. If you are a victim, it walks you through step by step. Has a test in the back to see how susceptible you are to being a victim. You might want to take it before you pat yourself on the back after passing it. You might want to have your spouse take it and see if they would pass it. Okay? Give you some tools to walk away from. Hopefully that you picked up a few things of different types of ID theft. I think had we started, you would have, if I would have asked, hey, what is ID theft? What does it mean to you? We might have heard some different answers, but I'm hoping you saw a broad array. One last thing that they would not let me put in the pamphlet is almost a surefire way not to become a victim. But like I said, they wouldn't let me put in the pamphlet. Anybody have an idea what it might be? Oh, there's no pamphlet. They should be on the way out. I know in my bag I got one. Okay, well, we need to beat up Kathy, because the bankers threatened that they might try to steal them from me, so. Okay, how not to become a victim. If you cannot get a credit card, neither can the crook when he steals your information, okay? Okay? So all those things that you were told about maintaining good credit, throw them out the window, okay? I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Well, Kip, that was fascinating and enlightening and helpful. Thank you very, very much. Well, it's 4 o'clock, yes. I'm only going to talk for about a half hour now. I just want to very quickly do some thank yous. And the first is to thank you all. I can't believe that the room is still full after, I think, 18 speeches. You have been attentive, you've been engaged, and you've stayed awake, and that's very impressive. So I thank you. I want to thank the speakers. This morning, Peggy, Mary, and Carl, and then this afternoon, Elizabeth, Julie, and Kip. Let's thank all of them for their visit. And then finally, I want to thank Kathy Topol and the committee. You've done a great job planning a great event, and we all owe you a great word of thanks. So thank you. I hope that you will all pay attention to the suggestions and recommendations. I think that this will be a safer community if you really use some of the suggestions that Kip and others have recommended to us. We can be safer, we can protect ourselves, we can watch out for our neighbors, we can watch out for people in our community who may be abusing themselves or neglecting themselves. Let's watch out for neglect. Let's finish with no, not here, not now, not ever. Thank you all very much for being here.